The stars had always called to humanity. From the first fire of rockets to the rise of Earth's great fleets, humans had pushed forward. Against gravity, against fear, and against the unknown. Now, centuries after leaving their home planet behind, humanity stood on the edge of something new. A place among the stars, not as conquerors or wanderers, but as diplomats. Captain Rael Voss stood at that edge. He was not a politician. He was not trained in soft words or long speeches, but he had done what few others could. He had survived war, led missions where no one else returned, and earned the respect of allies and enemies alike. That was why Earth had chosen him, to be its last ambassador. His mission was simple in name, but dangerous in truth. The insectoid world of Selthra had remained closed for decades. No human had ever walked its surface. The Galactic Concord, a group of alien species that ruled much of known space, said it was too risky. That Selthra were proud, ancient, and powerful. Their hive mind structure made them hard to understand, harder still to trust. But now, they had opened their doors. Not to scientists, not to traders, to a human. And that human was Rael. As his ship, the UFS Solace, broke through the thick clouds of Selthra's upper atmosphere, Rael looked out the window. Below him stretched a vast land of black stone and glowing rivers. Towering spires rose from the ground like the bones of a giant beast, each pulsing with light. This was the capital hive, Nixera Prime. Approach vector confirmed, came the voice of Commander Kira, his pilot and longtime friend. We've been cleared for landing. Rael nodded, though his stomach twisted. You sure about this? Kira asked, glancing at him. No, Rael said honestly, but I'm going anyway. Kira gave a small smile. That's why you're here. The ship landed with a gentle thud on the dark platform. Outside, hundreds of Selthra warriors waited, tall, armored, and silent. Their chitinous bodies gleamed under the dim red sky. Each held a weapon unlike anything Rael had seen before, long, organic blades that hummed with energy. They did not move. They did not speak. They only watched. Rael took a deep breath, stepped off the ramp, and stood alone before the hive. A moment passed. Then, from the shadows beyond the platform, a figure emerged. She was taller than the rest. Her armor was more ornate, more alive. Glowing veins ran through her body like rivers of light. She moved with grace, power, and purpose. Queen Nixera. Her eyes met his. And then, without warning, her voice filled his mind. You are the one who comes in peace. It was not spoken. It was not heard. It was felt. Rael did not flinch. He had trained for this. He knew that Selthra communicated through neural links. He had practiced mental shielding, learned how to control his thoughts. Still, the pressure of her presence was overwhelming. I am Captain Rael Voss, he said aloud. I come in peace on behalf of the United Terran Federation. Silence followed. Then she stepped closer. The warriors did not move. None dared to interrupt. You are not afraid. Rael didn't answer right away. He thought about the battles he'd fought, the friends he'd lost, the times he had stared death in the face and refused to blink. No, he said, I'm not. For the first time, the queen tilted her head slightly, as if curious. You are brave. The words echoed in his mind like thunder across the sky. Then she turned and walked toward the palace. Without looking back, she raised a hand. Come. Rael followed. Inside the palace, the air was warm. Bioluminescent vines hung from the walls, casting soft blue light. The floor pulsed faintly beneath his boots, as if the building itself was alive. Strange symbols covered the walls, ancient writing, older than any human language. At the center of the great hall sat the throne. It was not just a seat. It was a living thing wrapped in tendrils of biometal and pulsing with energy. Around it stood high-ranking Selthra officials, advisors, generals, and priests of the hive. Queen Nixera stepped up to the throne and turned to face Rael. Then she did something no one expected. She gestured beside her. "Lay beside me." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some of the advisors stepped forward in protest. Others fell silent in shock. Rael blinked. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, with respect, "I believe there may be a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," she replied. "This is our way." Rael looked around. Every eye was on him. Every warrior tensed. If he refused, it might be seen as an insult. If he accepted, he would take part in a ritual he barely understood. He took a step forward, then another, and finally he laid beside her on the throne. The moment his back touched the warm surface, the room changed. A pulse of energy swept through the hall. The walls shimmered, the vines lit up, and deep within his mind, Rael felt something stir. Connection. Now the queen whispered into his thoughts, "We begin." Outside, the storm clouds gathered. But inside, something new had begun. The moment Rael laid beside Queen Nyxara, something changed. It wasn't just the room. Though the glowing vines pulsed brighter, and the warriors stiffened like statues, it was inside him. A warmth spread through his mind, not painful, but deep, like a door had opened that he didn't know existed. And then he heard it. Not words, not sounds, but thoughts, thousands of them. They poured into his head, not all at once, but like waves on a shore. He saw flashes, memories of war, of birth, of pain and joy. The hive was speaking to him, not with mouths, but with shared feeling. "You are now connected," Queen Nyxara said in his mind. Rael blinked, trying to stay calm. "I feel everything," he said aloud, voice low. "Yes, you are now part of the link, even if only for a time." He sat up slowly, still beside her, and looked around. The Selthra warriors were no longer watching him with cold eyes. They were staring at him with something else. Respect. Or maybe fear. One of the advisors stepped forward, a tall male with golden armor and sharp mandibles. "Your Majesty, this is not tradition. No outsider has ever shared the throne. This act could weaken your rule." Queen Nyxara did not look at him. "Then let them see what strength looks like." She turned her gaze to Rael. "Show them." Before he could ask what she meant, a rush of energy surged through his skull. His vision blurred. Then, suddenly, he was seeing through her eyes. He was not just himself anymore. He was her. He felt her memories flood his mind. He saw the day she was born, not as a child, but as a queen. Her body formed by the hive, her mind shaped by generations of thought. She had led since the moment she woke. He saw battles fought beneath black skies, where Selthra warriors charged without fear, knowing death served a purpose. He saw her make the hardest choice, to end a rebellion within her own people, not with cruelty, but with mercy. And he saw Earth, a distant blue dot in the stars. Human ships arriving, cautious but brave. She had studied them, watched their wars, their peace, their rise. "I chose you because you are not afraid to change," she whispered in his thoughts. The connection broke. Rael gasped, falling back slightly. His heart pounded. Sweat ran down his face. The advisor who had spoken before now stood silent. So did the others. Then, one by one, they bowed. Even the tallest warrior lowered his head. Queen Nyxara rose. "You have seen what I have seen. Now you understand why we do not trust easily." Rael stood, wiping his face. "Yes," he said, "but I also understand why we must try." The queen walked toward the far end of the hall, where a massive organic screen lit up. It showed maps, data, and images of space beyond Selthra. "There are forces in the Concord that wish to divide us, that wish to keep humans weak, that wish to use my people as weapons." Rael stepped closer. "Who?" he asked. "That," she said, "we must discover together." Later that night, Rael was shown to a private chamber. It was warm, quiet, and strangely peaceful. Unlike human rooms, there were no hard edges. Everything curved, flowed. It felt alive. He sat on the soft bed-like structure, still trying to process what had happened. His comm device buzzed softly. He tapped it. "Kira here," came the voice of his pilot and friend. "Go ahead," Rail replied. "You're still breathing." He gave a tired chuckle. "Barely." "Well, don't die yet. We've got company." "Explain." "We picked up a signal from the surface. Someone tried to hack into our systems. And get this, they used Concord encryption." Rail frowned. "The Galactic Concord, or someone pretending to be them." "That's the thing," Kira said. "It's real. Someone high up is watching you." Rail stood. "I need more info. Can you trace the signal?" "Working on it. But I wouldn't take too long. Feels like someone's already planning something." "Copy that." He cut the link. Just then, the door to his room opened. Queen Nixura entered alone. "You suspect betrayal." Rail nodded. "Someone in the Concord doesn't want us working together." She stepped closer. "Then we must move faster than they expect." Rail studied her. "Why me?" he asked. "There are other diplomats, other leaders." Her eyes met his. "Because you are not afraid to walk into the unknown. You do not pretend to be perfect. You lead with truth. That is rare among your kind. And mine." He looked away for a second. "I'm just doing my job." "No," she said gently. "You are doing more than that." She reached out and touched his arm. "You are proving that humans can be trusted." Rail took a breath. "Then let's make sure they don't get the chance to take that away." Nixura nodded. "Tomorrow, you will meet the high commanders. They control our military. If we win them over, the path becomes clearer. And if we don't, then we find another way." Rail smiled slightly. "I like the sound of that." Outside, the wind howled across the dark plains of Selthra. But inside, two worlds were beginning to come together. The next morning came like a storm. Rail stood in the great hall once more, this time not beside Queen Nixura, but facing her council alone. The high commanders had arrived. 6 towering Selthra warriors, each clad in armor that pulsed with power. Their eyes gleamed with suspicion, their mandibles twitched with doubt. Queen Nixura sat on her throne, silent but watchful. One of the commanders stepped forward. His name was Vorik, the head of the Selthra military force known as the Stormclaws. "Ambassador Rail Voss," Vorik said through the neural link, his voice sharp like a blade. "You have been granted an audience not for your rank, nor your strength, but because our queen has chosen to trust you. We do not." Rail met his gaze without flinching. "I understand," he replied aloud. "I wouldn't trust me either if I were you." A few of the commanders shifted, surprised by his honesty. Vorik narrowed his eyes. "Then explain. Why did the queen allow you to share her throne?" "That act is sacred. It is reserved only for those who carry the hive's blood." Rail took a deep breath. "I don't know what it means to your people," he said. "But I do know this, it wasn't about power. It was about unity. She didn't want to show weakness. She wanted to show strength. And she chose me to prove that humans can be trusted." Silence filled the chamber. Then another commander, a female named Thaline, spoke. "And what proof do we have of that? You are one human among billions. Your kind have warred, lied, and betrayed even their own. How can we believe you are different?" Rail looked at them all. "We don't have a perfect history," he admitted, "but we learn. We change. And sometimes we make choices that define us, not just as individuals, but as a species." He turned to the queen. "Your Majesty, may I speak freely?" She nodded. "Always." Rail faced the commanders again. "There's something you should see." He tapped his wrist device. A holographic screen appeared above them, showing footage from a distant system. "This happened 2 years ago," he said. "Humanity was offered a powerful weapon, a chance to destroy an enemy fleet before they could attack Earth. All we had to do was press a button. He paused. But we didn't. We held back. We chose diplomacy over destruction, even when it would have been easier to strike first. The commanders watched the footage in silence. Then Vorik spoke. "Why tell us this?" "Because I'm not here to take anything from your people," Rael said. "I'm here to help protect what you both value most, your freedom. And I know there are others who don't want that, others who want to keep us divided." Queen Nyxara stood. There is truth in his words. She looked at her commanders. "You fear that my bond with him weakens me. But I say it strengthens us. If we do not adapt, we will fall. And the threat is already moving." At that moment, Rael's comm buzzed softly. He tapped it discreetly. "Kira," came the voice. "We found something. Someone's been feeding false intel to the Concord about the Xelthra. They're preparing to cut off trade and isolate your planet." Rael's jaw tightened. "Who?" he asked quietly. "Still digging," Kira said. "But it's coming from inside the Concord Council itself." Rael looked up at the Queen. "I think we just found our real enemy." Nyxara's eyes flashed. "Then we must act quickly." Later that night, Rael and Nyxara stood on a high balcony overlooking the city. Below them, glowing towers stretched into the sky like roots of a massive tree. "You risk much for our people," Nyxara said. Rael leaned against the railing. "I risk nothing if it means saving both our futures." She studied him. "You are not like other humans." "No," he said. "I guess I'm not." A pause. Then she asked, "Do you fear what you have become?" He knew what she meant. "The connection between us," he said. "Sometimes I hear the hive in my thoughts, feel things I can't explain. But no, I don't fear it. I just don't fully understand it yet." "Understanding comes with time," she said. "And trust." He looked at her. "Do you trust me?" She stepped closer. "Yes, and that is rare for my kind." He smiled slightly. "That's good to hear." Suddenly, alarms blared across the palace. Lights flashed red. "Intruder alert," came a voice over the comms. Rael and Nyxara rushed inside. A guard ran toward them. "An unauthorized ship has entered orbit. It claims to be diplomatic, but its weapons are active." Rael frowned. "Let me guess. Whoever it is, they're not friendly." "No," Nyxara said. "This is a test." She turned to Rael. "Now we find out who among us still believes in peace." Back in the command room, the high commanders argued. "We must strike first." Vorik growled. "No," Nyxara said firmly. "We will not give them the reason they need to declare war." Feline stepped forward. "Then what do we do?" Rael looked at the data. "This ship isn't just any diplomatic envoy," he said. "It's from the Concord's intelligence division. They're the ones who leaked the fake intel. They want to provoke conflict." He looked at Nyxara. "They're here to stop us before we expose them." She nodded. "Then let us give them a message they cannot ignore." She turned to her guards. "Prepare the welcome chamber. Let them land. Let them speak, but show them the strength of the hive and the courage of a human who stands with us." Rael gave a small grin. "Now that," he said, "sounds like a plan." Outside, the alien ship descended through the clouds. Inside, two worlds prepared to face a common enemy. And for the first time, they would stand together. The alien ship landed just before dawn. It was sleek and black, with no markings to show its origin, except for the glowing insignia on its side. The eye of the Concord Intelligence Division. Rael Voss stood beside Queen Nyxara at the edge of the landing platform. Around them, Xelthra warriors lined up in perfect formation, their weapons hidden but ready. The air was thick with tension, not from fear, but from focus. "They have come to divide us," Nyxara whispered into Rael's mind through their neural link. "I know," he replied aloud, "but we'll show them unity." The ramp lowered. A single figure stepped out. Tall, human, dressed in a dark uniform with silver trim. His face was calm, his posture relaxed, but his eyes were sharp like knives. He walked forward without hesitation. "Captain Railvoss," he said. "Queen Nixara, I am Agent Dane Mercer, representative of the Concord Intelligence Council. I come in peace." Rail took a step forward. "I've heard that line before," he said, "usually right before someone tries to start a war." Mercer smiled slightly. "That's not my mission here." Nixara studied him. "Then what is your purpose?" Mercer looked up at her. "We've received reports that the Selthra are preparing for war against several Concord worlds. If this is true, we must act to prevent conflict." Rail crossed his arms. "And who gave you those reports?" Mercer hesitated for just a moment. "Our sources remain confidential." Rail smirked. "That means you don't want to say where they came from, because you already know the truth." Mercer remained calm. "The truth is, if the Selthra are arming themselves, we need to understand why." Nixara stepped down from the platform. "We do not hide our strength. We do not seek war, but we will not be judged by those who spread lies." Mercer tilted his head. "I assure you, we only want peace." Rail took a slow step closer. "No," he said, "you want control." Silence fell over the crowd. Rail continued. "You fed false data to the Concord. You planted rumors about the Selthra planning an attack. Why? To isolate them, to weaken their standing in the council, and maybe to push humanity out of the picture too." Mercer didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed. "You're clever, Captain. I won't insult you by pretending otherwise. But understand this. The Concord fears change. Humans rising so quickly, forming alliances with species that once refused diplomacy. That makes people nervous." He looked at Nixara. "You sharing your throne with a human. That's not diplomacy. That's revolution. And revolution is necessary," she said coldly. Mercer nodded. "I agree. Just not yet. Not while the balance of power is still fragile." Rail stepped forward. "Balance?" he repeated. "You mean control." Mercer shrugged. "Call it what you like. The point is, if you continue down this path, you'll invite more than just suspicion. You'll invite enemies." Nixara's eyes burned with quiet fury. "Let them come." Mercer studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to Rail. "You could walk away from this," he said. "Return to Earth. Forget all of this. You'd be celebrated as a hero, a diplomat, a legend." Rail didn't blink. "I'm already a legend," he said, "because I stand for something real." Mercer gave a small smile. "Well then, good luck with that." He turned and walked back toward his ship. As soon as the ramp closed and the engines roared to life, Nixara spoke. "Now we act." Back inside the palace, Rail and Nixara met with the high commanders. Vorik was angry. "We should have struck him down. He threatened our sovereignty." Feline was calmer. "Killing him would have made us look guilty. This way, we exposed him." Rail nodded. "And now we have proof of what's happening behind the scenes. We can't just report this. We need to show the entire Concord what's really going on." Nixara looked at him. "How?" Rail thought for a moment. "We need to find the source of the fake intel. Someone inside the Concord is feeding Mercer his lies. If we expose them, we turn the tide." Feline frowned. "That could take time." Rail smiled. "Good thing we don't have to do it alone." He tapped his comm. "Kira, I need everything you've got on Mercer's network. Who gives him orders? Who funds his operations? I want names." A pause. "Working on it," Kira replied. "This might take a few hours." Rail turned to Nixara. "We'll need to stall the council until we get what we need." She nodded. "Then let us give them a reason to listen." Later that night, Nixara called for a galactic summit. a rare event where all major Concord members gathered to discuss matters of interstellar importance. It was broadcast across every world. Billions watched. On the massive holo-screen in the chamber, the faces of leaders appeared, some familiar, some not. Each one represented a powerful species. Each one held a vote in the Concord. At the center sat High Chancellor Veros, the oldest and most respected leader in the Concord. He looked at Nyxara. "Queen Nyxara, you have requested this summit. Speak." She did not hesitate. "We have been accused of preparing for war, of threatening the peace. These claims are false. And today, we will prove it." Veros raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Rael stepped forward. "This isn't just about the Xelthra," he said. "It's about how information is being used to control which species rise and which ones stay in the shadows." He tapped his wrist device. A new screen appeared. Data scrolled rapidly. "This is internal traffic from the Concord Intelligence Division," Rael explained, "and it shows Agent Mercer receiving direct orders from a secret branch within the Concord Council itself." Gasps echoed across the channel. "Here's the kicker," Rael continued. "They're not just targeting the Xelthra. They've been doing the same to other species, feeding false info, starting conflicts, keeping everyone afraid." One of the alien leaders leaned forward. "Who is behind this?" Rael looked at the final file. "We're still tracing the full network," he admitted, "but we know this much. The operation has been running for years, and someone very high up is pulling the strings." The room fell silent. Then, Chancellor Veros spoke. "If these claims are true, this changes everything." Nyxara stepped forward. "Then let us finish what we started. Let us reveal the truth. Together." Rael looked at her. For the first time, the galaxy was listening, and they were finally ready to speak. The Galactic Summit had shaken the Concord to its core. For centuries, the Alien Council had ruled over thousands of species, claiming to bring peace, order, and balance. But now, thanks to Rael Voss and Queen Nyxara, cracks were forming in that foundation. Lies were being exposed. Trust was breaking down. And behind it all, someone powerful was pulling the strings. Back on Xelthra, Rael stood in the palace's central chamber, surrounded by glowing screens filled with data. Commander Kira's voice came through his comm. "Captain, we've traced part of the network," she said. Mercer reported directly to a secret branch inside the Concord called the Pale Accord. They'd been manipulating diplomacy for decades, starting wars, stopping alliances, controlling which species rise and fall. Rael frowned. "And they're targeting us because we're proving that humans and Xelthra can work together." "Exactly," Kira replied. "They don't want unity. They want control." Rael looked toward the throne, where Queen Nyxara sat deep in thought. "This is not just about politics," she whispered into his mind through their neural link. "It is about survival." He walked closer. "What do you mean?" he asked aloud. She turned her glowing eyes to him. "The Pale Accord has something ancient, something forbidden. I have seen hints of it in the Hive's memories. A weapon not of war, but of thought." Rael's stomach tightened. "You mean they can control minds?" "Not in the way you fear," she said. "But they can influence leaders, change how entire species think. And if they succeed in turning the Concord against us, no amount of diplomacy will save us." Rael took a deep breath. "We need more than proof. We need leverage." Nyxara stood. "Then let us give them something they cannot ignore." Later that night, Rael was summoned to the Heart Chamber, a sacred place deep within the Hive. Few outsiders had ever entered, and none had returned unchanged. Inside, the walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Bioluminescent vines wrapped around the ceiling, glowing with soft light. At the center stood a massive organic platform, a living machine. Queen Nyxara waited there, standing beside a glowing pool of liquid energy. "This is the core of the Hive," she said. "It holds the thoughts of every Xelthra who has ever lived, every memory. every emotion, every decision. Rael stepped forward cautiously. You brought me here, why? Because you are ready. He blinked. To do what? To bond. The word hit him like a hammer. I'm not one of your people, he said. I can't become part of the hive. You already are, she said gently, even if only slightly. You feel the link. You hear our voices. This will only deepen it. He hesitated. I don't know if I can handle that. Nyxara stepped close. You are brave. That is why you must do this. Only through full connection can we find the truth hidden in the shadows. Only then can we stop the pale accord. Rael looked at the glowing pool. He thought of Earth, of the people waiting back home, of the trust humanity had placed in him. He thought of the battles he'd fought, not just with weapons, but with words, with choices, with courage. And he nodded. I'll do it. The process began. Rael stepped onto the platform. Tendrils of energy reached out, wrapping around his arms, his head, his chest. His body tensed, his vision blurred. Then, he was everywhere. Memories flooded his mind, not just his own, but those of the hive. He saw ancient wars fought beneath burning skies, saw queens rise and fall, saw warriors give their lives without hesitation. He felt the pain of betrayal, the joy of unity, the sorrow of loss. And then, he saw something else, a dark shape moving through the stars, a ship unlike any other. Its hull was black, its design unfamiliar. Inside, figures spoke in hushed tones. The human must be stopped. He is too connected. If he completes the bond, he will see everything. One figure stepped forward, Agent Mercer. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood another face, one Rael recognized from the Galactic Concord. Chancellor Veros. His voice echoed in Rael's mind. The age of humans ends here. The vision broke. Rael gasped as he fell to his knees, his body trembling. Nyxara caught him. What did you see? He looked up, eyes wide. The Pale Accord isn't just working in the shadows, he said. They've infiltrated the highest levels of the Concord, and they're planning to destroy us both. She didn't look surprised. Then we must act before they strike first. Back in the command room, Rael and Nyxara gathered the high commanders. Vorik crossed his arms. We do not run from war. If they come, we will fight. Feline looked at Rael. What do you suggest? Rael tapped his wrist device. A holographic map appeared. This is where the Pale Accord operates, he said. A hidden base near the edge of Concord space. If we hit them there, we cut off their leadership. Expose them once and for all. Vorik tilted his head. You would risk everything for this. Rael met his gaze. Yes. Feline studied him. Why? Why take such a risk for us? Rael smiled slightly. Because you're not just allies, he said. You're family now. Silence followed. Then Nyxara spoke. Prepare the fleet. Outside, the storm clouds gathered. Inside, two worlds prepared for battle. And for the first time, they would fight not just for peace, but for each other. The fleet moved like a shadow through space. Dozens of Selthray warships, sleek and organic, glided beside human battle cruisers painted with Earth's symbol, a blue circle surrounded by stars. Together, they formed a force no one had expected, a human Selthray alliance. Rael Voss stood on the bridge of the UFS Solace, his eyes fixed on the dark void ahead. Commander Kira sat at the helm, her fingers dancing over controls. Captain, she said, we've picked up movement near the target zone. Looks like we were right. Rael nodded. They know we're coming. Queen Nyxara entered the bridge, her presence calm but powerful. She walked to Rael's side. Then let them see what unity looks like. Rael turned to her. We don't want this to be a slaughter, he said. We need to show them we're not here for revenge. We're here for truth. Nyxara looked into his eyes. Then we must fight smart and win fast. They dropped out of hyperspace just beyond the edge of the Pale Accord's hidden base, an enormous structure built inside a dead moon. It pulsed with dark energy, its surface lined with weapons turrets and defensive shields. Kira frowned. "That thing is packed with firepower," she muttered. They weren't hiding just to stay safe. They were preparing. Rael tapped his comm. "All ships, listen up. This isn't about destruction. It's about exposure. We disable their systems, not their people. Make sure every sensor in the Concord gets our signal loud and clear." Vorik's voice came over the channel. "Understood, Captain. The Stormclaws are ready." Thaleen added, "Let us remind them that the hive does not fall easily." Rael gave a small smile. "Then let's move." The attack began with silence. Zelthra stealth drones slipped past enemy defenses first, planting tracking nodes across the base. Then came the human frigates, launching EMP pulses designed to scramble targeting systems without causing major damage. Only after the enemy was blinded did the main fleet strike. Zelthra flyers dove like lightning, slicing through turrets with precision strikes. Human fighters flanked them, firing disabling shots at engines and communication arrays. The goal wasn't to destroy the base, but to shut it down long enough to get inside. Inside the command center of the Pale Accord, chaos erupted. Agent Mercer stood in front of a glowing console, shouting orders. "They got past our outer ring." "How?" One of his officers yelled back. "They're using coordinated strikes. Human tech mixed with Zelthra tactics. We didn't expect this kind of coordination." Mercer cursed under his breath. "This is impossible," he growled. "They're supposed to hate each other." Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Sir," another officer shouted, "they're broadcasting live footage from orbit. Every world in the Concord can see what's happening." Mercer froze. "No," he whispered. On the screen, the view switched to a live feed of the battlefield. But instead of showing explosions and death, it showed something else. Targets being disabled, not destroyed. Ships surrendering, not burning. Soldiers taken alive, not killed. And above it all, a message flashed in every known language. "This is not a war. This is a warning." Mercer slammed his fist on the table. "They're turning this into propaganda," he snarled. Behind him, a new voice spoke. "You should have known humans wouldn't play your game." He turned sharply. Chancellor Veros stood there, expression unreadable. "You knew?" Mercer asked. Veros stepped forward. "I helped build this network," he said calmly. "I won't watch it fall in disgrace." Mercer's eyes narrowed. "So what now?" Veros looked at the screen. "Now, we end this before it's too late." Back aboard the Solace, Rael watched the feed closely. "They're pulling back," Kira said. "Most of their forces are standing down." Nixura tilted her head. "They see what we are doing. And they understand." Rael exhaled. "It's working." Just then, a new signal came through. It was Chancellor Veros. His image appeared on the holoscreen. "Captain Voss, Queen Nixura, you've made your point, but this changes nothing." Rael crossed his arms. "Doesn't it? Everyone saw what happened. Your secret war, your lies. They're exposed." Veros didn't blink. "Truth alone doesn't change power." Rael smiled slightly. "No, but courage does." He looked at Nixara. She nodded. "Then let us give them more than truth. Let us give them hope." She turned to her commanders. "Prepare for landing. We take the base, alive." The ground assault was swift. Zelthra warriors descended through the docking bays, moving with silent efficiency. Humans followed close behind, weapons raised but not fired. Resistance was minimal. Most soldiers surrendered the moment they realized the battle was already lost. In the central chamber, Rael and Nixara faced Mercer and Veros. Mercer sneered. "You think you've won." He spat. "You've only made enemies for life." Rael stepped forward. "No," he said. I've made allies. And I've shown everyone that fear doesn't rule the future anymore. He looked at Veros. What happens now is up to you. The old chancellor studied him for a long moment. Then he sighed. You are braver than most humans I've met. Rael gave a small grin. I'll take that as a compliment. Veros turned to his men. Stand down, all of you. The Pale Accord ends here. Silence filled the room. Then, one by one, the remaining agents lowered their weapons. Later, the footage was sent across the galaxy. Every species saw it. The alliance between humans and Selthra wasn't just real, it was unstoppable. And the Galactic Concord had no choice but to acknowledge it. That night, Rael stood on the edge of the ruined base, looking out at the stars. Nyxera joined him. You did what many thought impossible, she said softly. He chuckled. I had help. She looked at him. You are part of the hive now. In mind, if not in body. He nodded. I feel it, he admitted. Sometimes I hear your thoughts. Feel your emotions. It's strange, but not bad. She placed a hand on his arm. You are not just a human anymore. You are something new. He looked at her. And what's that? She smiled slightly. A bridge. He grinned. Well, I guess that's better than being called a diplomat. She laughed softly. Yes, it is. Behind them, the stars burned bright. And for the first time, two worlds stood not just together, but united. The stars had always watched humanity. From the first fire of rockets to the rise of Earth's great fleets, humans had pushed forward. Against gravity, against fear, and against the unknown. Now, centuries after leaving their home planet behind, humanity stood not just among the stars, but as a force that could unite them. Captain Rael Voss was no longer just a human. He was something more. His bond with the Selthra hive had changed him, not just his mind, but his soul. The neural link between him and Queen Nyxera remained strong, like a quiet voice in the back of his thoughts. Sometimes it was a whisper, sometimes it was a storm, but it was always there. And so was she. Standing beside him on the observation deck of the UFS Solace, Queen Nyxera looked out at the stars. Her glowing eyes reflected the light of distant suns. You feel it, she said into his mind. Rael nodded. I do, he replied aloud. It's like everything is connected now. She turned her head slightly toward him. Because you chose to see beyond yourself. He smiled. Or maybe I just got lucky. She gave a soft hum, and Selthra version of a laugh. Luck had nothing to do with it. You made choices that mattered. That is rare. They stood together in silence for a moment. Then Kira's voice came over the comms. Captain, we've received word from Earth. They want to speak directly with you. Rael tapped his wrist device. Patched them through. A new holoscreen lit up. On it stood President Elias Grant, leader of the United Terran Federation. Captain Voss, he said. Queen Nyxera. I don't know how to thank you. Rael raised an eyebrow. For what, sir? Grant smiled. For proving that humanity belongs here. For showing the galaxy who we really are. And for doing it without war, without bloodshed, just courage. Rael glanced at Nyxera. We couldn't have done it alone. Grant nodded. That's exactly why this matters. You didn't try to take control. You tried to build something better. He paused. There's a place for you both at the next Galactic Concord Summit. Officially. Rael blinked. You mean? You'll be representing Earth, Grant confirmed. And that Selthra will be recognized as full members of the Concord. Nyxera tilted her head. This changes everything. Grant smiled. It does. Days later, the summit began. On the grand stage of the Concord Hall, representatives from across the galaxy gathered. Thousands of species, once divided by fear and politics, now watched as two figures stepped forward. Rael Voss and Queen Nyxera. Behind them stood a banner unlike any before. a symbol of unity between two worlds. The hall fell silent. High Chancellor Veros, now stripped of his secret ties to the Pale Accord, spoke first. We gather today not as enemies, but as witnesses, to history, to change. He looked at Rael. Humanity has proven itself not through conquest, but through choice, through trust, through bravery. Then he turned to Nyxara. And that Selphir have shown us that evolution is not weakness, but strength. He raised his hand. Let it be known that Selphira and the United Terran Federation are now full members of the Galactic Concord. Applause filled the chamber. Some species clapped, others clicked mandibles or vibrated in joy. But the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, but as leaders. Back on Earth, celebrations broke out. Cities lit up with lights shaped like the new Alliance symbol. Children ran through the streets wearing small flags with the Selphir crest beside Earth's blue circle. Families gathered around holoscreens, watching the historic moment unfold. For the first time in generations, humanity wasn't just surviving among the stars. They were shaping the future. Months passed. Rael remained bonded with the Hive, walking a fine line between two worlds. He was no longer just a captain, nor just a diplomat. He was something new, a Hive ambassador, a bridge between species. And he was not alone. Queen Nyxara visited Earth for the first time. As she stepped onto the soil of a world she had only seen from afar, she looked up at the sky. Then she turned to Rael. You are brave, human. He grinned. And you're not too bad yourself. She gave another soft hum. We did what many thought impossible. He nodded. We showed the galaxy that unity isn't weakness, that peace isn't silence, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust someone enough to stand beside them. She placed a hand on his shoulder. And now we lead. He looked out at the crowd of humans watching them. Yes, he said softly. Now we lead. Above them, the stars burned bright. And somewhere out there, new adventures waited. But for now, two worlds had found each other. And together, they had changed the galaxy.